Hello, you're welcome. You're welcome onto my channel today, and it gives me great joy to observe you are viewing this video. I'm Professor Olayinka Akale. I'm a lecturer in the university. On this channel, I do a number of stuff, but all the stuff I do, you can easily cluster them into four. So I do content on research, sociology, migration, and relationships. So the video you are viewing today is on research. Meanwhile, if you have not subscribed to this channel previously, kindly go ahead and click subscribe on your screen right now to join my family of subscribers, and so that you might be alerted every time I drop new videos that may be of use to you. Meanwhile, I've dropped many videos on research, and you might view them to assist you in your research endeavor or academics or profession. So click my playlist on research to learn more about all those things I've done previously. Click subscribe on your screen right now. Tap subscribe on your screen right now. Validity in research. Validity in research is what I will be talking about today. This is a very important issue because many universities, institutions do not teach this as a major issue, yet it's very important. This is one reason reports of people in consultancies are rejected. This is one major reason project, dissertation, thesis are lopsided or upside down. This is one reason papers submitted for publication are rejected, because many researches are simply not valid, and except researches are valid, then they are meaningless. So stay tuned, and I'll be telling you what validity in research means, aspect or element of it, and how you can have more valid research. And I want you to stay tuned, and I'll tell you types of validity. So what precisely is validity? I've told you why it is important. It's important because this is only when your research or your project or dissertation or thesis or your report can be very strong, can be very acceptable, and your papers can be acceptable for publication, depending on the reason you conduct your research. You must pay strong attention, intentional, attention to validity. So validity simply means the capacity or the extent to which a research or a measurement tool actually measures exactly what it's supposed to measure, what that research, what that tool intends to measure. So the extent to which that thing was measured is actually what we regard as validity. Validity means the extent to which a research or a measurement tool actually measures what it intends to measure, what it was designed to measure, what that research was intended to do. That means the extent to which the objectives or research question of a research or tool was measured. So any research that was not able or is not able to measure the objectives, to measure, to achieve the purpose for which it was conducted or it was developed, is said to be invalid or not valid. So validity is very important. If you design a research, nobody conducts a research without having objectives in mind, or without having intention, or without having research questions to be answered. So the extent to which that research or that measurement tool answers the research question is what we call validity. If we say this research is valid, that means it has achieved the purpose for which it was designed. Or that measurement tool, it could be a questionnaire, could be a measurement equipment, could be an interview guide. The extent to which they have measured what they were designed to measure is what we call validity. You have a reason to intervene in some reports that were rejected, and what I found essentially was the fact that the process or the instrument or the research itself, was not valid. So if I want to break it down, when you say research or a study is valid, that means the findings of that research, are meaningful. That means the findings, the result reflect the real world, reflects the essence. That is, people can relate with. So sometimes some people might not be able to relate with findings of a research, but that does not mean it's not valid. It just means it has found something new, something original. But generally speaking, a valid research, the results or the findings must be meaningful. Must be meaningful, whether to lead to innovation or to support the existing knowledge or to create new knowledge. Then it must reflect the real world, and the conclusions must be accurate. Before you can say research is valid, then the conclusion must be accurate and the recommendations must be useful. Because the essence of any research is to make recommendation to solve particular problem, whether it's operational research, whether it's academic research or scholarly research, or whatever research it is, the recommendations must be useful. We expect that you will have recommendations to solve a particular problem. And this recommendation, the findings, the conclusion, the recommendations must be useful, must be truthful, and must be correct in context, in which that research was conducted. So don't forget validity in research. Ask a question every time you conduct a research. Is my result, is my research or my study valid? My instruments, are they valid? And so on. So there are different aspects of validity in research. A major aspect is that there must be accurate and direct precision. The findings, the result, the process must be accurate and must be direct. I must be precise. Precision is actually a major element of research, because research is science and art and a process. So the research must be accurate, must be direct, and must be precise. And it must measure, the right thing that is designed to measure. And it must be trustworthy. The result must be very trustworthy. So, and we have different types of validity. A major one is what we call construct validity. That is, every research has its own proposition, has its own hypothesis, has its own theory, has its own assumption. In fact, it's the assumption or the hypothesis that you take to the field. I have a video on hypothesis on this channel, you might view. And you have some theoretical constructs that are guiding you, or the assumption. So, for a valid research within the construct of its development and conduct, then it's the extent to which this construct, this theory, these propositions are measured. It's what we call construct validity. Then you have content validity, which means the research must have covered every aspect of the research. It must effectively cover every aspect of the research that you want to cover, that you are interested in. This could be the objectives, can be the research questions, essentially. There is something we call prima facie, that is the face validity. I've mentioned two validity: construct validity, content validity. Now I'm talking about face validity. That is, at the face of it, looking at this research, sometimes I want to examine a thesis or a dissertation or a project or a report. I just look at the title, look at the objectives, and look at the methodology. I just peruse. Mere looking at it, I know that research is not valid. So prima facie, from the face value, is the research, is it valid? Then we have what we call criterion validity. That is, external. Is this research able to predict some external issues, external trajectory? Is this research able to predict it? Is it able to be situated within the domain, external domain, of this research? That's what we mean by, criterion validity. That is the external prediction. Is it able to predict the external environment of that reason for which the research was conducted? Then you will have internal validity. That is this research able to establish cause and effect relationship between the independent variable and dependent variable? This is particularly very important when you do quantitative research. It's not in all research. I must say this emphatically, and I want you to listen to me. It's not in all research that you establish dependent variable, independent variable. Students and colleagues have asked me severally over the years that what is the dependent variable and independent variable in this research? And I say some examiners have asked, and this is very wrong. It's not in every research that you want to isolate dependent variable, independent variable. It's most relevant in quantitative study. If you do qualitative study, we are only interested in the context of the issue, the domains of the issue, not necessarily in terms of variables. So, but when you do quantitative research or a research where you have established dependent variable and independent variables, then the relationship must be clear. Is it correlation? Is it just relationship? This is very important. So internal validity means, to what extent can you say A causes B without any confounding factors, without any intervening variables? So The validity, internal validity, is very important to be able to establish relationship among your variables, even among your concepts in terms of your conceptual framework. There's a video on conceptual framework on this channel. Feel free to view that video. We also have what we call external validity, which means to what extent can you generalize the findings from this research. And that will only be possible if you have satisfied the purposes of other previous types of validity. Don't forget, external validity means to the extent to which that result, the findings of that research is generalizable. And don't forget, I like to say this, listen to me very carefully. It's not all the time that you want to generalize the findings of a research. If you do quantitative research, we expect that maybe you want to generalize. But if you do qualitative research, generalization is not intended. I have a video on generalization on this channel. View that video on generalization. Qualitative studies are not designed to be generalizable or to generalize. We are only interested in digging deep, earthworm view of that particular environment or scenario. But if you had generalization in mind, maybe you have done quantitative study that is so large and you want to generalize from that population to other populations, then external validity suggests that your research must be generalizable to be considered valid. Don't forget, it's not all the time that researchers want to generalize. But if you have intention of generalizing your findings, then external validity must be satisfied. Okay. I hope you are enjoying this video. Now, the next thing I want to talk about, which will be the last actually for today, is how do I get validity in my research? How to get validity. And I will break it down in terms of before the field work, before the research, during the research, and after the research. These are things you have to do because you must always ensure that your research is valid. Number one thing before you go to the field is that you must define your problem very clearly. What is the problem you want to go and solve through your research? That must be clearly documented, must be established. Why am I going to the field? Your statement of problem must be clear. I have a video on statement of problem on this channel. So you have to be clear. Then you have to scope. What is the scope of this study? How large or how small is this study supposed to be? I have a video on scope of study on this channel. View. So you must define your problem, the problem of the research very well. The scope must be clearly defined. Then the objectives must be clearly identified. Because thematically, these objectives will guide your literature review. There's a video on literature review on this channel. We will guide your theoretical framework. We guide your data collection. We guide your instrumentalization. We guide your data collection. And we guide your analysis. So objectives and research questions are very important if your research will be valid. In fact, a major reason your research will not be valid is if you do not define your objectives and research questions effectively and clearly. There's a video on research questions on this channel. There's a video on objectives on this channel. View those videos at the same time. Then you must choose your method very well. Your methodology must be strong. I've done a lot on methodology on this channel. Different types of method the research design, method of data collection, sampling. So you must pick your methods very well. If you don't pick your methods or your methodology very well, there is no way your research will be valid. So be careful in picking your methodology. Then conduct pilot study. Pilot study will assist you to see the pitfalls in your research and you quickly revise your strategy or your methodology. So you conduct pilot study, or pre-field, we call pre-field, study. Or a pilot will tell you it's like a mini research of the main research, which will be conducted among smaller people or smaller sample in a different setting that you will not be conducting the main study in. So, but now that's before the research. But now let's talk about during the research. You must control for variables. Don't forget I mentioned the independent variable and dependent variable. You must control for confounding variables. If A must lead to B if you want to establish internal validity, for example. So if you want to establish internal validity, then you must control for confounding variable so that A will lead to B. There will be no C in between. That is very important. And you must choose your samples very carefully. If you are doing quantitative sampling, then you need to make sure you select representative samples. But if it's quality, you may not need to ensure representativeness. Then you must improve your measurement technique. Make sure that your measurement, your instrumentalization is very solid. Design your instrument very well. There must be improvement in your technique, and you must ensure consistency. Throughout the study, there must be consistency. You must engage your participant very well. You must have chosen the right participants, and you must have engaged them. Ask them the right question, ask them, establish follow-up, then establish dissemination workshop with them, to share your findings with them preliminarily, and let them make input before you finalize. Engage them very well and triangulate. That is, you must collect your data collection through different methods. There's a video on triangulation on this channel. Gathering data through more than one method is what we call triangulation. Or you can triangulate theory, method of data collection, method of data analysis. You can triangulate them so that the shortcoming of one is covered by the other. So triangulation is very important, and let your data analysis be thorough. Don't rush it. Use different methods. You can even use different softwares. So to do thorough data analysis will lead you to areas that may make your research not to be valid. Then you must make your results to be very comprehensive, covering every of your research question, covering every of your objective. That is very important. Comprehensive analysis, comprehensive results, and try as much as possible to have peer review. Once your results are ready, once your article is ready, once your project is ready, or your dissertation or your thesis, ask somebody else to help you review it and critique it, to draw you to areas that are not valid, so you can quickly make corrections before your report or your project goes out. So don't push your paper or your report out without having somebody else helping you, somebody else assisting you to read it and give you feedback. So that peer review is very important. And acknowledge your limitation. There is a place we call limitation of study in methodology. Let them know the limitation of your study. It doesn't mean that the research is invalid, but it also shows us the problem that you encountered and how you were able to resolve those problems to make your research to be acceptable and valid, and be transparent and accountable. Explain your methodology. Be detailed in your methodology so that people see what you did, what you did not do, and why you did not do it. Methodology is the science of the method. It's the philosophy of the method. When you get a PhD, your PhD is awarded on your methodology, mainly. So be detailed, be transparent and accountable in the sense of how you went through the research. That should be detailed in your methodology and throughout. And have disclaimers that every error is due to your own shortcomings or the rest of it. So you can have disclaimers appropriately and get help if needed. Get help of people who are more professional if you need. Wow. Thank you very much for viewing this video. Please subscribe. Till I see you in my next video. Bye for now.